I'm Miles Ruttencutter, and this is the Miles Ruttencutter Podcast.
Today we're going to be talking about James Fishback. James Fishback is an American investor and political candidate. He's running for governor of Florida. He's gained attention for his bold populist platform, focusing on eliminating property taxes, restricting immigration, and taking aggressive action on issues like homelessness and government spending. He positions himself as an outsider. Fishback emphasizes economic reform, cultural issues, and strong state-level leadership. Today I want to focus on a recent promise he made. Here it is.
How about this? Next week, in front of a United States federal courthouse, I will sign a legally binding document that if I break a single one of my campaign promises to you, as spelled out in that document, I will surrender my right. I will give up my right legally, irreversibly, irrevocably. I will give up my right if I break a single campaign promise to you for re-election in 2030.
So, we're going to focus on those promises that he says that he is going to cover. First of all, we're going to start with the economy. He says he wants to eliminate homestead property taxes. He wants to focus on making life more affordable with jobs, housing, and family stability. When it comes to immigration, he wants to abolish the H-1B visa, and he wants to fire H-1B visa workers in Florida government jobs. He also supports a complete immigration moratorium, and it's important to realize the way that he intends to abolish the H-1B visa program. He is unable to abolish it entirely, as that is not his job. However, he has a method in which he is raising the amount that you have to pay H-1B visa people so that you do not have to pay them less than you would pay a typical American citizen, trying to even it out. I went to one of his events in Jacksonville, and he talked about this. Now we're going to talk about homelessness and public safety. He wants to remove all homeless people from the streets. He said he would deploy the National Guard on day one to do this.
That's why, as governor, I will use my authority on my first day to deploy the Florida National Guard to remove every single homeless person off of our streets.
When it comes to technology and the economy, he wants to cancel and oppose AI data centers in Florida. When it comes to taxes and social policy, he wants a 50% sin tax on OnlyFans creators. The revenue will be directed toward education and crisis pregnancy centers. When it comes to foreign policy, which is his state-level actions that he's able to partake of, he will divest Florida from Israeli bonds. He will redirect that money into housing assistance, and he will refuse campaign donations tied to foreign governments. As we know, James Fishback is very greatly against AIPAC because his competitor, Byron Donalds, is someone who takes money from AIPAC. So he is very, very serious about that. When it comes to infrastructure and transportation, he wants to reopen Amtrak's Sunset Limited route in Florida. When it comes to the environment, he wants to restore the Everglades and protect state parks. When it comes to cultural and social issues, he wants to return nativity scenes to government property. And when it comes to education and society, he has proposed mandatory uniforms as well as other proposals. So when it comes to the court pledge, there is no widely verified credible source confirming a formal legal pledge where he would be able to go to court and legally give up his right for re-election if he fails. However, he is able to make that promise, and if he is able to carry out all of the duties, there's a high chance that he would not run for re-election. If he's unable to carry out all of the duties that he claimed in his promises, there's a high chance that he will not be able to win another election, being that he would have lied to all of the people. I think it's important that we acknowledge how that is, because we have people like Donald Trump who has made various campaign promises, and he's not the only one. People do this all the time. I'm just using him because he's a recent example, saying no new foreign wars, and we went into Israel. However, that is a discussion for another video. But it is important to acknowledge that that is absolutely a possibility. However, he does make the claim that he does want to go before a court. That does leave him open to being sued, however, for saying that he broke the document and the legal requirements that he signed himself up for. So the claim that he says comes from social media clips and rhetoric, but not enforceable documents or legal commitment yet. It is possible, however, it is not fully enforceable. So it's important that we understand what the big picture is and what he is running on. He is running off of the populist / America First movement ideology. He is focused on immigration restriction and aggressive law and order policies. He is focused on cutting taxes, and he focuses very greatly on cultural and religious issues. Now, if you have just watched this video and you are not sure about whether or not you should vote, I made an episode recently talking about whether or not Christians should vote, and I absolutely recommend listening to that. This one went over his policy, and I intend to make another video talking about if this policy is even possible to be taken out. Eliminating property taxes on homestead properties is not easy. That's a big part of our local governments and how it's funded. So that will be a additional video / podcast episode coming out very soon. That was one I've been working on for a while. However, I saw this recent video about this pledge where he reclaimed what he said at this Jacksonville meeting recently that I attended. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to inform you about what his campaign promises are. Now, again, this isn't a full step-by-step list. I'm sure eventually he will put out a list. However, if you go on his website, he does not have a list posted. So it's important that you do your own research as well. Don't just take my word for it. I recommend going back through this video again and taking note of actually what the different things are and looking at what he says publicly, because what he says publicly can be very greatly elaborated on. Personally, my notes didn't talk about how he's going to handle the H-1B visas. However, he does talk about that extensively at his different speeches, which you can find online. So it's important that you do your own research. Thank you for watching, and make sure Jesus is first.